So hello and welcome to Own Your Divine Light show. I'm Janet Miller and I invite you to listen to the transformational life of Colleen Slaughter-Roy, who is a new thought leader who combines her entrepreneurial leadership skills and spiritual practices into impactful leadership. Colleen helps people dig deep into their beliefs and what is holding them back and taking the bolder moves, her company name, needed to create authentic leaders. Welcome, Colleen.
Thank you,
Thank you
Janet.
so much for being here. It's such an honor.
I just feel this affinity with you. So thank you so much for extending the offer. And I'm really, truly enjoyed being here with you and serving your people through this video.
Thank you. And everyone is learning so much from you because you have a great story and I'm so excited to hear. So my first question is about, well, tell us a little about your life. I kind of know where you're from, but you need to tell people your story and where you live now and how did this all...
Yeah, how did it all happen? Thank you.
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to just share to give a little context is I came from a home that was very dysfunctional. You know, I was talking with a client the other day and he laughed and he goes, I think all of us have, or most of us. So I'm sure I'm not in the minority there, but there was a lot of stuff that went down. And so one of the effects of the dysfunction was that we didn't have a lot of money. And I also, I didn't feel that I really had role models around me, people that I really wanted to be like, essentially. And I will say this, I have always had this pretty strong intuition, which I'm most at home with myself when I honor it.
Yes.
And there have been many moments in my life when I dismiss it because the people around me, I feel that I don't belong when I listen to it. That's not true now, but that has been true at different episodes in my life. And so there I grew up in Kentucky, and I grew up actually in Louisville. And why is that even significant, or why would I mention that? Because Janet, you said that a minute ago, like now I live in France. The road between Kentucky and France literally did not happen overnight. But I always had this yearning to come here. And I might say something outlandish. I don't think it'll be outlandish to you, Janet, but some people might. I really believe my pull to come here is because I've had many of my lives here. So I do think there's been a karmic draw to be here, because I had a series of years where I was back and forth between Kentucky and France. I would work at a waitressing job, earn money, and come over for 3 months and go back to the US and do another job and come back, and all of these things before I learned that I could get how I could get my working papers here. But essentially, because I always had it in my mind, I wanted, like, in high school was the first time foreign languages were offered, and we had a choice between Spanish, German, French, and there was no question I was going to study French. For me, there was just no even thinking about it. And my mom knew this, and my mom knew, I will say this, she could be tough in a really great way, in that she knew that she would work, 2 jobs if necessary, so that I could pursue my dream, which at that time meant coming to France for a semester. And so I did do that when I was in college, and it was life-changing in more ways than one. First of all, I met a lot of people like me, other Americans that really loved foreign cultures. Yeah, exactly. And then I found that I could be resourceful and take care of myself in an international city, because I was in Paris. I had never been outside the US, much less lived in an international city.
Isn't that a feeling to be able to say, I can take care of myself here?
It was amazing. And again, as I said earlier, it was a long road. So not only the long flight across the Atlantic, but I mean, when I first got here, I hated it. Everything was different. Everything was so uncomfortable. And that's when I learned about culture shock. And I went through my version of what Joseph Campbell says is the dark night of the soul. And, probably about 100 times I wanted to leave and go back to Kentucky where it felt easier. It felt that was my comfort zone. And, you know, what I've come to understand, and of course, then I came out the other side by the end of those 3.5 months, like, wow, look at, I can speak French now. I can, because I had classes before in the US, but it's not the same thing as living in the country. And wow, I have all these people I know here, and I can get along, like you said, international city. And I realize now as I'm saying that what I spoke about, and there's a man named Otto Schammer who speaks about that, the U theory, but essentially that was a transformation I went through, right? And that transformation involves a dark night of the soul. And it doesn't have to be dramatic where we're really in darkness. It can be, you know, just last a little bit. But I've had many, many of those. And that's an example too, where you mentioned the bold moves where I just pack up and go.
It's a fantastic, I mean, you're amazing. I think like you had the hero's journey. You've been on the hero's journey, which is, I forget the author who wrote wrote about the hero's journey, but Conrad, is it Conrad? He spoke about that, and you've done the hero's journey, and it can be many dark nights of the soul. I too have gone there, so I get that.
You know, yeah.
So important really for your growth, I think. And you have to learn to, I mean, when you learn, you don't have to, but you learn that if you really want to go somewhere in your life, you have to step through that door of fear. You've got to step through it.
Absolutely.
And once you get through it, you go, wow, it wasn't as bad as I thought. It was scary as hell in the beginning, but now it's okay. I can do it. I did it. And then the next time it comes along, the fear can still be there, but then you're still ready for the next step. You're not so scared. You're not so afraid to take it this next time. And it opens so many doors. So, you know, I applaud that you've kept going with your journey, and look at where it's taken you. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's been amazing. The doors, and I always know, and I learned that early on, and then I had it validated by some spiritual, wise people. But before I officially took a spiritual path, let's say, I just figured out that if I'm doing the right thing, like right with a capital R, I don't necessarily mean legally, although I don't break the law on purpose either, but I mean, right, like intuitively, what feels like the right thing? Where do I feel that sense of expansion inside me?
Yes.
Things just open up.
Yes.
They just open up, and crazy things. Like, for example, it's very difficult to get a driver's license in France. It's extremely expensive. Everybody has to take lessons, even if you already have a license from somewhere else. It's very expensive. It takes forever. It's a very hard test to pass. Guess what? Of all the states, at the time at least that I was looking into this, of all the states, guess which state has an automatic exchange with France?
Don't say Kentucky.
Yes.
Seriously?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Wow.
It's an example. It's an example of
a karma reward.
Exactly. And, you know, and another thing, I had been working somewhat illegally, do I say that word? I'll whisper it, you know, illegally, under the table with a Canadian stock brokerage company in Paris. And they, you know, we'd all been in conversations, how are we going to make this legal? Because with a US passport, it wasn't going to necessarily work. It would be really tricky. And the woman who worked there had a really great friend at the Irish embassy. And they were on the phone just chatting. And the woman who worked there shared with the friend, well, yeah, Colleen, and then finished whatever the sentence was. And the Irish embassy person said, oh, well, doesn't she have working papers? I mean, her name is Colleen. That's Irish. And I said, well, no, but, you know, my grandmother was born there, but, you know, that was a long time ago. And the woman said, no, actually, you can have the right to Irish citizenship. And so wouldn't you know, I pursued it. But it was one of these whispers that I pursued, but there was another door opening. An example of when we're doing the right thing, that things go.
When you're on a path and you're taking those steps.
We just trust the doors are going to open.
Trust. It's huge. And wow, you did it. It's so great. Wow. I love these kind of stories because these are the miracles that happen in people's lives. And, you know, it's not like there are different kinds of miracles, and this is definitely one for sure. And look at where it's gotten you. I mean, now you're in your home of your dreams, and your life is on a path that's just, there's no boundaries. I mean, you're there.
I don't always feel like that. I got to tell you the truth, but thank you. I'm glad you see it.
It does rein you in a bit. Kids will do that to you. I know that. Yeah. But it's fun. It's fun to have them too. It's a lot of fun. So, you know, you've opened the door of authenticity with your clients, because look at you, you're so authentic and you're so, you know, you honor people for you because you've been on the journey. And so, you know, how people can get to where you've gotten. You can share that with them, and this helps their leadership. So how do you do that for your clients? Like,
oh, what a great question. So authenticity and courage, those are two of my top values. And, you know, name of my company, Authentic Leadership International. And then it's funny because the web address is actually bouldermoves.com.
Yes.
And some people think, well, what in the world is a link? I mean, that's kind of strange to have a web address that's Boulder Moves, but yet the name is authentic. It's like what I have found, and everybody that I've worked with, whether it's individual and coaching or teams, facilitating teams, it takes a lot of courage these days on earth to be who we are. I mean, as I said earlier, around my example of really just being intuitive and trusting my intuition, where a lot of people around me, at least I interpreted that they thought I was weird. And so then I sought to pretend to not be intuitive.
Okay.
I was only blocking off my own energy and my own light. Yes, right. And absolutely. So, but it takes courage to say, look, guys, I disagree, or this is the life I'm living. Yeah. I saw this really cool phrase on Facebook. Somebody put there, but it said something like, don't worry about fitting in, just create your own category.
Absolutely. And you've probably expanded all these people's minds that you work with. I mean, you've probably planted these seeds that have changed them, the way they look at things in the world, because you're bringing such a new outlook. And
a lot of people get surprised because I don't always use the S word in business, you know, S meaning spirituality,
of course.
But they still get surprised. Yeah. It depends honestly on the region of the world, because some regions are more used to that. But yeah, they definitely bring that. And it took me a while to get to that in my business. You know, I had a period where I was real salesy and all about making the money. And now I'm more, and this is to answer your question, because I realized I didn't really answer it earlier. How do I help my clients with that? Well, have clients get in touch with what their true values are, because at least my story with values is when I initially looked at them, I saw the values I thought I had, I wasn't living. And those which I really wanted to have, I wasn't living, or I was living values that I thought other people thought I should be having. So it was this whole messed up thing, like really, who am I? And what, most importantly, what do I stand for? So I help clients with that. And to really be, the phrase I use a lot is in alignment with themselves. And the vast majority of people I work with, it's about confidence. And that's my favorite word in French, because in French, the word for confidence, confiance, it means both confidence and it means trust. And I see my experiences, they go together. When we really trust ourselves, and it doesn't mean I'm always going to come up with the number one top answer that everybody in the world agrees with, but it means that I trust my own intentions. I trust my purpose. I trust my worthiness. Now there's a word we don't hear a lot, but I've found to be really relevant. When I trust that, then I can be more fully who I am. And so it sounds really easy, but there's a lot more to it. But essentially that's it. And then also understand what my purpose is, or at least have a clear idea, because very often for most of us, purpose, it's a process to get to. It's not something we just, oh, that's my purpose, but it's process of self-understanding.
Right. And it's ongoing. It's an ongoing journey.
Well, that's what we're doing here, right? That the Earth's goal is understanding that.
When people realize there's no end result, when you finally come to the understanding, there's really not an end result, but you see results. You're seeing it all the time, but there's not an absolute end to it. And to be open to that, I think that changes your whole outlook on life. Like, you know, you're just open to what is available to me. What do I need to bring in here? Or what do I need to know now? What do I need to do with my clients? this is what you're bringing. You're just looking at that and you're bringing that out to people. And I think that's so valuable and wonderful to expand people's minds. I mean, you're doing that. You're helping them see things that they would never have thought of. And I think that gives them their opportunities that, you know, creates their life in such a beautiful way that they, I like this. This is what I want in my life, and this is what I've been looking for. And Colleen has shown me how to do that.
Yeah. A lot of them don't even know that they have a yearning, because it's really, I mean, a lot of the teacher I've done a lot of studying with, and she didn't come up with this material, but she brought a lot of it from her teacher in India, and she's made it very accessible for the business world. And, you know, my experience is, and I've worked with probably thousands of leaders, both between one-on-one and then also when I'm facilitating teams. And most people aren't even aware that they're yearning for this, you know, level of depth, or this level of, now I'm going to use the word peace. I just had a coaching conversation with somebody who really came to a lot of peace in the last few months. And most people initially think, well, how can I just get that next promotion, right? And then we start peeling back the layers of why do you want the promotion? And once we keep peeling, right? Essentially, a lot of us think, well, the pay or the job or the whatever is going to lead us to be happier. Then when we peel back the layer, what does happier mean? Well, literally, it means more fulfilled.
Yes.
For most of us, but you know, we might not know that right away, and it's no disrespect to anybody. I certainly raised my hand the first one, you know, that was there in that boat. So as you said, it's definitely a process, right? And it's all about that willingness, like you also beautifully said, to walk through the fire, to say, gosh, this scares the bejeebies out of me. But it's better than, at least what I often come to with myself, the fire is much more attractive than the pain of not showing up for myself in the way that really does move me forward. Yeah.
Yep. When you look back at your life and you say, wow, I actually did that. I mean, it's a great feeling to say, I stepped through that fire. I actually took that move and did it. And it's just rewarding. And it's, you know, when we grow up, we don't always have a good sense of ourselves. And then as you get older, you start, as you say, you're intuitive, you're learning about yourself. And then as an adult, we've been lucky enough to learn about expansion and mind opening. And so many people now are doing that. And that's why I wanted to do the show. And I feel that, you know, it's just such a fantastic opportunity in life to do this. It's just the best. I can't imagine any other journey to be on than this.
There's no way. And, you know, I think about too, I gave the example earlier of the move, obviously from Kentucky to Paris, but, you know, a lot of the things I've done, the big things, like then I was a secretary in Paris, and as an American, okay, that the context is not quite as important, let's say, as it is in France, because in France, it's about the almighty diploma. And it's very kind of, in the US, it's show me what you can do and I'll put a label on you. In France, it's show me your diploma and I'll show you what you can do. And so the fact that I went from that, and then not only did I say I'm going to go get my MBA, but I went to France's most elite school, right? So I did that. I had children when people told me doctors told me I couldn't have children. I mean, there's been just this huge list. And it seems like, in one of the things I have on my site says bolder moves, higher levels. That's the tagline. And I had some people say, I just don't understand that. Well, the idea is when we are the most afraid, that's where we also have the most to gain.
Yes. That seems to be when we're actually truly on our path and what we're supposed to do. When we're the most afraid, it's the universe telling you, do it, try it, because this is where you're supposed to be. Because it's not supposed to be comfortable or easy, not in this reality. It's definitely always a challenge. We're in duality. You have to take that move. We're moving out of it, but we're this is the great thing when you were talking about people not, you know, they have they're not sure they can't give themselves permission to move forward sometimes. they don't know how to say, I don't need to be in that box anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of people are breaking out of it now. And that's why,
Yeah. That's one of the gifts of the craziness that this world has become, I think, is the fact that a lot of people are like, okay, I have to do something.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to do something that makes me happy, that truly makes my heart sing, that truly brings joy in my life. It's not about money, although we need money to live, and I'm not being, you got to be realistic, but also to be happy is so much more important, because you can see people work and they're just not happy. And that's the old way. It's really old thinking that we're moving out of. And I think people like you bring it to people to show them that they don't have to be there anymore. They can change that. And I also like how you look at the whole person in your business. You look at the language or the role of the body, showing up as a leader, the role of trust and leadership. You have so many great approaches. Can you tell us a little more about that when you work with people?
Yeah, thank you. So I was actually really, when I made the choice to go to coach, I knew it wasn't really a choice. It was more like I answered the calling to go to coaching school. By that point, I knew that there were hundreds of coaching schools. And, it's different than the university system, for example, where you have some kind of rankings. And I really didn't know, well, which one do I go to? So I'd asked some people that I admired, and they had made a suggestion, and someone else had suggested another. And the short story is I went with the one that the people had suggested, because it's called New Field. I'm not going to be cryptic, but it brings in the body. And I know for me, as I mentioned at the beginning, from the dysfunctional childhood, I've been on a path of healing. I mean, in addition to making these bold moves, a big part of that, what goes synonymous with that is healing, right? And my body has been a big part of that. Yoga is a huge part of my life. Meditation has changed my life. Then I get body work like acupuncture or Reiki. So body is a big piece. And I knew that a big part of my own dysfunction, because of what I learned growing up, but I take responsibility as an adult, was not learning about having a healthy relationship with my emotions. So I saw that emotions are important. And is it really the emotions that are good or bad or right or wrong? Well, no, I've learned it's neither. They're just their information about what my interpretation of experiences, right? And so being able to bring this to people who are wanting and open to hearing more about that and learning more. Because for a lot of us, if we look at that, and Newfield calls it the Bell model, body, emotion, language, most of us in the Western world are more comfortable with language. We can do that. We can go to IQ.
Sure.
Right. And then again, depending on what our own childhood circumstances were, our cultures, where we may have grown up in whatever part of the world, or what caregivers taught us, where it might be more or less comfortable with emotions, but it really depends.
It sure does.
Body, for a lot of us, forget it.
Yeah.
But it's amazing, because Ralph Waldo Emerson, he said, what you are speaks so loudly that I can't hear what you're saying.
How interesting.
So, and other body language experts will say 93% of our language is nonverbal. So there's the nonverbal piece, but there's also what I'm coming to understand, an energy about this, right? There's an energy that people might not all people can always sense, but a lot of us can sense. So even if somebody has the smile or the right, quote, leadership body posture, that is coming in with quite a different intention, or different thoughts going on that aren't really, it's kind of faking it till he makes it or so. Those of us who are more finely attuned can figure that out because of the energy that we're giving off. So we're so much more than what goes on in the rational part of our brain, which is what the IQ piece is, right?
Yes.
That's that whole language. We're EQ, that emotional intelligence. And we're also, I might use the word SQ, which actually we modified that now in front of clients, company clients, instead of calling it SQ, which We, in our language, the group of collaborators I work with, is spiritual wisdom. We've now called it the MQ, meaning the meaning quotient.
Oh,
so one of the ways that a lot of leaders can inspire more is by bringing more meaning into what they do. But you can't do that if you're just using the rational part of your brain.
Absolutely.
So there's so much more I could say, but in a nutshell.
I love it, because my next question was all about how you let your clients get better in touch with their true selves through this kind of impact that you teach them. The meaning. I mean, how many companies talk about the meaning, you know? It's almost like sensory. I almost said the word sensory. I was thinking of my kids when they were in Montessori school, and they were learning tactile touch, and it's all about feeling and the senses and making those come alive. And you're doing that with people in all these different ways. You're making them come alive with their emotions and their language, and they're making them be aware of all these different facets of who they truly are, the whole person. Because we can disassociate from all these things, and we just don't
allow ourselves. Yeah, we don't always know, and then if we do know, we sense it, we don't always give ourselves permission, because again, it's scary. And if I look at, you know, with all due respect, and I'm also an American when I say this, but particularly corporate America, you know, can be a really scary place. I mean, if we look at the fact that one can get fired from one moment to the next. And in addition to that, and you just froze for a second. There we go.
Yeah.
And sorry.
Oh, okay. Go right ahead.
Yeah.
I said there was no safety factor in the company.
There's no safety at all. And there's also no space to really reflect, because, and I just say it, but there's no real vacation that people take. And they're really, you know, I mean, the very limited number of weeks per year. And even then, if they're not getting on conference calls, they feel guilty, or they're afraid they'll be fired when they come back, or labeled not engaged or not motivated. I mean, it's crazy. So that's one of the reasons why we moved over here. But the point is, it's not anybody's fault, right? This is also some of the circumstances that we're around. But once we start knowing what could be possible, right? And again, there's a yearning a lot of us have, and we don't always know we even have it. But that's part of what I am. You know, I've been able to see, I was told that we're all brought into this world with one of three different energies, right? And in a nutshell, one is all about soft love, one is about creativity, and one's about more that tough love. And I'm more that spicy, tough love one, you know?
Okay, you're in the right field then. You picked the right field for that.
So there's definitely a lot of love, but it's also a lot of spiciness. So I
think you get the respect in that sense too, because that's what people in business want. They want to see you have that tough, even though you have the sensitivity, you also have that resilience. You can,
absolutely.
You can show them, no, I know, I got this.
Exactly. Yeah. So just to say, how do I do it? I do that, right? But in the beginning, and I always want to create a sense of safety for the people I work with, right? And I really mean that. I mean, there's a sense of confidentiality. There's a sense I'm always going to hold that highest version of you. If I am challenging, it's with your permission, and always with knowing that this is where I want to help you get to. And so, you know, it's really cool how the universe works, because very often the people who choose, more times than not, the people who choose to work with me, they just sense something. You know, it's also intuitive people, not always. And it's not that I only work with intuitive people. It's people that just are, they can't really put their finger on it, right? But they follow it.
You can go.
Yeah.
We just froze for about a good minute or so. So if you want to repeat what you said, it was totally not happening.
Sure. What was the last thing you heard me say? I just don't remember when it froze.
You were talking about the safety with your people, and that.
That I
intuitive people who join you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's not that I only work with intuitive people at all, but it's just that most people who choose me, they choose because there's some kind of a pull, and they're not always able to articulate why, but they just sense. And some people say, well, I love that you love yoga, or I love that you're meditation, that makes you different than the other candidates I saw, or whatever it might be. But the point is, you know, they're at choice when they choose to work with me. And then I create that sense of safety. which I believe in thoroughly, meaning confidentiality, meaning I will always hold my wonderful people I work with at the highest level of their version of them, even when that means I'm spicy and might be challenging, especially when I'm being spicy, so that they know what the intention is, right? And so that's how. And, you know, I never proclaim to be an expert on anybody. Everybody knows him or herself much better than I ever could, but I can say what I observe and what I sense.
Absolutely.
And it's pretty awesome. I mean, half the time, I won't say it too loudly, but half the time I don't feel like I'm working.
Which is wonderful. See, that's when you know you're where you want to be. That's when you know you're in your true passion.
Absolutely.
Not feeling like work. Oh my goodness, it's the most wonderful feeling. I think that is great. I mean, that's it. You've made it. You found your calling. You found your.
That's for sure. Yeah, and now, you know, there's still fires to walk through, even with this. You know,
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
I
not like it's
went
easy.
through a really intensive training program this year, like development program, and it was, you know, there's still every time we want to get to the next level, right? There's still, but for sure.
But you're enjoying it on this journey. You're enjoying this part now. I mean, you know. It's giving you that push, but you're not minding it. You're going, okay, I can do this. I'm going to just go. I'm going for it. You know, I love that.
Oh, absolutely. It's all the joy. And like you and I were speaking about the beginning that, you know, my birthday is tomorrow, but the reason I share that is that very often when I'm making choices, I make them, you know, Stephen Covey said, start with the end in mind.
I love that.
And I realize, you know, with each year, one thing I absolutely feel 300% wonderful about is my career choice, you know, and all the, you know, there's bold moves I've made to get here too, you know, but it's like, here I am. And as you've said, this is where I'm staying and it feels awesome. And that's not on my list of need to work on or change before I go. Right. And, you know, there are other things on the list, but not that one.
Yep. So I know that you have, Miss Independent, and I love that because I actually played that song for my daughter on one of her major birthdays because she liked that. And so you described enough about your personal approach, and you had your two special words that you said: authenticity and wisdom. Is that what you
Courage.
used? Yeah, or courage. Courage. That's what it was. And so these values that you ask of people, you know, you really are. You know, I love the part about values that you ask people. You want people to, you know, understand your values, and you help them look at what their values are. You help them discover really what their values truly are. And, you know, what else can you talk about in that sense? Anything else about your values and how you can?
Oh, yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, we talk a lot about things. I mean, a lot of the things that we discovered, you used the word trust earlier. You know, we look at a lot of what we're doing involves relationships with other people. Right? Because if we take away any company you can speak about, and we take away the computers, the desk, even the product that they might make or sell, there's nothing that could exist without the people. But it starts with leadership of self. And so that's where this comes in, and also where personal life comes in, because a lot of people also work with their company sponsored, and they feel that they can't, they shouldn't share really what might be going on for them in other parts of their lives outside the office. And so actually, no, we're holistic people.
Yes.
And if something's amiss at home, it's going to show up at work, and vice versa. And what the company's paying for is that you become a more effective leader.
Right.
So we do a lot of that leading self, because some people say, I don't get how, in fact, I had one client actually based in Africa, but he had something major going on in his personal life. And every call, for the first 2/3 of the calls, he would say, I just feel, gosh, so guilty, because this is not what, you know, you were signed up to do, but, you know, I need help here. And it was amazing, because then he just needed 2 or 3 calls at the end to do what his professional goal was, because he felt so much joy, so much lightness for having moved through this other very challenging part of his life. And it's an example of where, yeah, we spend a lot of time on leading self, a lot of time. And because we need to lead self to be able to lead team, to be able to lead organization, and lead the world, right? There's this whole, starts with the inner circle of self, and then team, and then we might speak about, it's really interesting, your question, because I can have different people asking me different scenarios on the surface, right? Like, well, how do I transition out to another role, all the while helping the new person get used to? Or how can I don't like the way I show up when I'm triggered. How can I, give a better example? But, these are all some recent coaching topics that came to the table. Great topics.
Yeah.
And as we dig, it's almost always the same stuff. What do you stand for? What are you about? Why are you here?
You get right to the core. I mean, you're really doing this core work with people, which is, it's such a gift. I mean, they connect with you and they get in this gift of really finding who they truly are. It's just amazing.
Finding who they truly are and balancing that with this often or sometimes arduous task of being a human.
Yeah.
Right. And so that we all have, right? We said that earlier. So this notion of, okay, so I know that I'm here to be of service and to help move forward the world in my special way with the skills that I've been granted. And however, I'm still a human. I still get triggered. I still behave in ways I'm not proud of. I still have self-doubt. Yes, I do. And I still lack confidence at times. And, I give my power away. And, there's a million other things I do that are so human. And so as long as I'm walking here, and as long as every person I work with is walking here, we're also going to need to balance those things, right? That whole idea of self-love, self-acceptance, forgiveness, depending on the extent to which we want to take that with, yes, and I'm still walking this path of stepping more fully into my purpose. So it becomes, we could use the word holistic, but it also is quite complex, or it can be, right? Depending on what our various resistance patterns are, depending on the messages we've received, and that we allow in. Yeah, you're saying, oh, yes, so you got that too.
Self-love has been my whole journey. And I think when you bring that into your work ethic, oh my goodness, I mean, what a fantastic thing that the person is experiencing to, learn that, it's okay to love yourself. There's ways to do that. It's, there's ways to learn how to do it that balances out your life and makes your life better and opens up the doors again. I mean,
it's really the only way forward.
Yeah, it is the way forward. I love that.
Really, the most inspirational leaders, we always say there's so much you could talk about with leadership, and anybody who even wants more, like, just look at the blogs on my website, all the different topics. There's so many different topics. But if we were to melt down leadership into 3 steps, it's self-awareness or awareness. And the second one is choice. And I'll say more about that in a minute. And the third is ownership.
Okay.
And why do we say choice? Because 70% of the human population either has information about themselves or chooses not, doesn't want to hear the information about themselves, or they hear it, but they choose not to do anything with it. Choice. That's part of the human condition as well.
30 words, yeah.
And 30% of us, because I will give myself credit, I've signed up for this, have chosen, with awareness as we have, to do something about it, i.e. move forward. And depending on our life story, it's can be really difficult at times. It's not easy. No. That's why other people choose to, I don't hear anything, I don't see anything. And then the ownership is that whole process of, I did it again, there I go again, oh man, right? But it's that being accountable and saying, I commit to practicing, which is the only way our brains can change. Our brains do not, no matter how smart we are, guys, no matter how high achieving we are, we can't change like this. No. We don't transform like this. We transform with new neural pathways in our brain. It takes practice. And that's where the commitment comes in, and the choice. And it's like, often it's not just a one-time choice. I have to, on a daily basis, I choose. I want to be in higher levels of consciousness. I want to be more inspiring. I'm going to choose, even though it's exhausting for me right now, but I'm going to choose this. So that's what else we talk a lot about are those three pieces, right? And obviously the choice and ownership piece are the part about being human. And the ownership also kind of starts bridging into this spirit part of us, right? This light within us, because it's an ownership. It's staking a commitment to be more of that as a human, right? And yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, but it is for
all. That's exactly
really.
This is not a faint of heart path. People think, oh, you know, spiritual airy fairy people. If they actually knew, I mean, when you actually are on this path, this is one tough path. It is really tough. And I mean, but it's worth it. It's so worth it. I mean, because nothing, I mean, in this world, there's nothing gained until you work through the difficulties. I mean, you don't get anywhere unless you get through the tough stuff. It just doesn't work in this.
No, or the tough stuff keeps showing up, right? What I resist persists.
It's constantly challenging you, and you have to make those choices in your life to say, okay, I can choose this, or I'm going to just run away or go that way, or, not, I'm putting the blinders on. It's all choices. And choice to me is like the magic word. I mean, I didn't, you grow up not knowing you have choices because your parents are always telling you what to do. And then you come into adulthood and like, oh my goodness, I can make a choice. I mean, you're in college, I can go here, I can do there, I can go drinking, or I can study, or I could not, I could blow the whole thing, or I could choose to, do it. And you have so many choices, but, so it's a different word. People, I think it's so important to realize the choice that you have. And then the ownership is so true. You have to own what you've done, what you've created in your life, because we are the creators of our life. And that's another thing. People say, oh, I can't because this person did that and it affects me and blah, blah, blah. But really, we create everything with our thoughts, and we could get crazy with all those talks, but it's fun and it's interesting.
It's scientifically proven too.
And it's true. It is very, very true. Yeah. So I know you're a Vinyasa yoga teacher. We have a couple more minutes left, and bring that spiritual grounding into your life. And I think that has had so much depth to you working with your clients. And that's where you can bring in all the extras that and meditation, of course, opens you up so much to, the peace that you've talked about. That gives you that peace and calmness in your life that you can just go to that still point and just have that.
Yeah, it's my anchoring moment. Definitely. It anchors her. Yeah, really for sure.
So I know you love helping people with their dreams. It's just, you're just that they never thought possible. And you share, people have so many breakthroughs in leadership. And it must be a very fulfilling feeling for you when you see this happening.
Yeah, I would say what's most fulfilling is when the light goes on in their eyes.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're back, it's like, in a good way, that.
And they're fully present in their body.
They're fully present. Their light goes on. Again, I just had a coaching conversation with somebody who in August was in a lot of turmoil about a lot of changes going on in the organization. He was being asked to be transferred. He didn't want, because it would have really negatively impact his children and his wife. And for me, it just brings so much peace to hear how he shifted. And it no longer matters what they're doing, to your point, what you said a few minutes ago, but it's what is he going to do? And he trusts himself. Yeah. And that is what brings me fulfillment, is that when we really, again, I say it, but this is an example, stepping into who we are. Because, in this case, a lot of people look at the organization as up here and I'm down here. Aren't I lucky to have a job? And it can be easy to get into the fear mode, but seeing that also is, wow, look at everything I can bring as a leader. So that's just one example of many, but ultimately, yeah, it's that light that goes in our eyes where we just know with a capital K what our worthiness is. And we just know
that is a beautiful
who we are. Yeah.
Love it. That's absolutely the best. I mean, you can't ask for more than that. That's it. So I know you have a gift to share with people. If you want to just tell us the audience about the gift you have to share with.
Sure. Thanks, Janet. Thanks for that. So, I am all about, I talked about the word bold moves before, authenticity, and how getting from who we are now to truly who we are. And I had a long, arduous journey for that, and I'm still working on it. It takes a lot of courage. So what I offer is a weekly bold move. It comes once a week. It is no more than 3 lines. It is absolutely free. It's very simple, actionable, where we can all start playing a little bit with what it means to be bolder. Play a little bit of, well, what does it mean to step outside my comfort zone a little bit? Because that's the only way the comfort zone gets bigger, is stepping out of it. And so when we take these 2 tiny steps each week, or those that appeal most, we're able to do that. And so, yeah, that can be reached. You can go to Boulder Moves, and it's not the city in Colorado. A lot of people think it's in Colorado. Boulder point. Like courage, BOLDERMOVES.com. It's on the first fold of that. Or you can go, I think somewhere written there. Honestly, Janet, it's funny, I don't always remember it, but I think it's Boulder Moves, Weekly Bold Moves.
Yeah,
something
I think
like that.
We'll have that link up for them.
Yeah, you'll have the link up, and you just put your first name in or no name at all. I noticed recently in the email list that some people just don't put a name in at all. That's fine, no worries. And whatever email you want. And it would be just a delight. I'd love to be able to serve you in this way. Yeah, so that's my free gift.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. So I have to thank you, Colleen, for stepping out of the box of mainstream leadership training, learning the divine light by giving people this new, bolder way of looking and learning how to reach for their dreams. And I would love our audience to write in and tell us how they like the show.
Oh, that would be awesome. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. And obviously, we'll share that with you. And again, Colleen, thank you for being this glowing mirror of independence and creative thinking. And you share how much you help people and leaders step into making those bolder moves to unlock their passions, ignite their authenticity, and to create the lives they really love. Really love it. And I thank you. And they own their own divine light, which is all that.
Divine light. You can't get any better than that. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you again. I'm so thrilled that we were here together.
Me too, Janet.
I am Janet Miller, and I'll catch you all in the next episode. Thank you, Colleen.
Awesome, Janet. Thank you. Big hug.